Everyone, welcome to Watson's World, the place where we explore real stories that grab our attention, make us think, and sometimes leave us with more questions than answers. I'm Kevin Watson, and with me is my lovely daughter.
Kevina Watson.
Yeah, big up yourself, Kevin.
Thank you.
Yeah. In this episode of Watson's World, we're heading into the exciting and sometimes dangerous world of Jamaican dancehall. It's a place where the vibes are high, the music is loud, and the moves are unforgettable. But behind all that fun, sometimes there's real tension and real trouble too. At the center of our story is a man who didn't just dance, he shifted the entire culture of dancehall. His name was Gerald Bogle Levy. Some called him Mr. Wacky, others called him Father Bogle. He created dance moves like Willie Bones, Willie Bones. You know that dance?
A little bit.
Yeah. Also the Wacky dip. And that's when, you do the Willie Bones, you shake from side to side and you just go down and dip. Yeah. Yeah. You ever see that dance?
Yeah, I've seen it before.
Yeah. So yes, these steps spread far beyond Jamaica. Like if you see a lot of music videos, even in the States, rap videos and so on, you'll see some of these dances. Jamaica is the influence. So in dancehall, you don't need a big stage or flashing lights. Sometimes all it takes is one bold move at a street party or a moment on TV to steal the spotlight. Bogle had that kind of magic. He was talented, full of energy, and had a style so unique you couldn't help but stop and stare. But this story isn't all fun and fame. It's also about rivalry and heartbreak. You see, in 2005, January 2005, everything changed. Bogle was killed in a sudden and violent attack that shocked the entire country. In this episode, we'll look at where Bogle came from, how he became a star, what happened on the night he died, and all the different stories and theories that came afterward. Because Bogle's story is more than just a headline. It's a deep, powerful story that deserves to be told with care. This story isn't just about dancing. It's about dreams, friendships, mystery, and loss. It's about a man who brought joy wherever he went and left behind a legacy that still moves through the streets of Kingston, Jamaica, and around the world.
What you have to say for yourself?
What's for dinner?
What's going on here?
What's that stink?
What's this for?
What time is it? What's that?
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Let's take it back, way back to Trenchtown, West Kingston. In this place, music isn't just background, it's life, it's church, it's therapy. I mean, calling music background in Jamaica is like calling curry goat a side dish.
Yeah.
Just blasphemy, right? So, fun fact, did you know that Jamaica produces the most music per capita?
Yeah, I mean, Jamaica is mostly known for its music, so yeah.
But we are also known for rum bars. Like we have the most rum bars per capita, the most churches.
Here we are, Chelsea.
I mean, I guess Jamaicans are just lively people. Like,
Yeah.
That is why music is so important to us.
Yeah.
Now, in the middle of all that rhythm and energy was a boy named Gerald Levy, born on August 22nd, 1964. The world would later know him as Bogle. But before the fame, he was just a youth soaking in the vibes of a community that gave us legends like Bob Marley and Peter Tosh. Now, Bogle didn't need a microphone to stand out. His feet and body did all the talking, and wherever music played, that was his stage. By the mid-1970s, young Bogle was already showing up on TV across Jamaica, dancing on Ring Ding, the beloved kids show hosted by Miss Lou herself. That's Louise Bennett, right? The cultural ambassador. May her soul rest in peace. I mean, she inspired Jamaicans to love their roots, and I mean, Bogle absorbed that like sunshine. Those early steps on Ring Ding lit a spark in him. So by 1985, he leveled up to where it's at. That's another program, right? This was like a Jamaica's much watched Saturday night show on JBC. That's the Jamaica Broadcasting Corporation. And back then, like JBC was owned by the government. I think they were the same ones who we see now as like TVJ. So week after week, people tuned in just to catch a glimpse of this magnetic youth who seemed to move like the music lived inside him. Now, as dancehall music took over the streets in the 80s and 90s, Bogle's name rose right along with it. From street corners to stage shows, from dance halls to dance floors, he wasn't just following the beat, he was the beat. Bogle didn't just dance, he invented. Step after step, he turned everyday moves into cultural moments. If there was a rhythm, he had a response. And somehow, it always caught on. Moves that started in Kingston and ended up in London, New York, Tokyo, you name it. All of a sudden, dancers weren't just in the background. They were the main event. And Bogle, he was the blueprint. At the center of it all was Bogle's own crew, Black Roses. Now, this dance group weren't just part of the scene. They were the scene. These guys dictated the style, the slang, and the swagger long before Instagram even existed. They ran things out of Arnett Gardens, better known as Rose's Corner, where trends started and the streets took note. Now, at the front of the Black Roses crew, you had Willie Haggart, more. Larger than life, loud in fashion, and even louder in presence. You see, Willie and Bogle were best friends, right? So when Willie and Bogle stepped into a party, game over. Every step came with swagger. Every move had purpose. They didn't just show up. They owned the space. The Black Roses didn't follow culture. They created it. And every time Bogle touched the floor, he flipped the script. Always fresh, always unforgettable. But Bogle's reach didn't stop at Rose's Corner. He danced everywhere. Stage shows, backstage, TV, music videos, you name it. And the artists, they didn't just see him. They saluted him. People like Beenie, Elephant Man, Buju Banton, Bounty Killer, Bogle moves became part of their shows, their songs, their style. I mean, Beenie said it plain. Bogle is the greatest dancer of all time. And if you ask most people in Jamaica, they would nod and say, yeah man, that's facts. Now, to truly understand the weight of Bogle's legacy, you have to understand this. Dancehall in Jamaica isn't just a genre, it's a lifestyle. We're talking booming sound system, street dances that don't sleep, fashion loud enough to match the bassline, and moves that said more than any lyrics could. And right at the center of it all, Bogle. His style was always flamboyant, loud, joyful. He would step out in colorful clothes, chunky jewelry, make a funny face, and still look like the sharpest man in the place. And that smile, pure charisma, wrapped in gold teeth and confidence. Because, gold teeth was a thing.
Yeah.
It's probably still a thing in the dancehall. I don't know. According to Dr. Donahoe from the University of the West Indies, Bogle didn't just dance. He elevated dancehall. She called him a trendsetter, someone who brought flavor not only to the moves, but to how a dancer carried himself. And when it came to the moves, Bogle had a bag full. We have the Willie Bones, the Wacky Dip, the Urkel, Pelper, Sesame Street, Jerry Springer, and Lord of Yards. And of course, the one that started it all, the Bogle dance. Each one turned into a phenomenon, lighting up clubs in Jamaica and eventually stepping onto global stages. One moment that shows just how deep his influence ran. The group Voicemail had a track called Weddy Time. Cool song. But when Bogle dropped a new routine to match it and hit the streets with it, the place mash up. Kevin Blair from Voicemail put it simply, you can't have dancehall without Bogle. Elephant Man said it with even more fire. The whole of the youth them will dance, a Bogle them look up to. Him are the baddest we ever walk. And it's not just words. Shelly Belly, Ding Dong, all of them credit Bogle for clearing the path. Before him, dancers were in the background. Bogle flipped the whole thing. Suddenly, the dancer was the reason people showed up. Even now, you can still feel his presence. In the workshops held at Black Rose's Corner, in the way young dancers style their moves, even in big-time music videos. Look closely at Rihanna's Rude Boy. You'll catch the vibe. That's Bogle, still moving, still speaking. Yes, his life was cut short, far too soon, but his name still echoes in every dancehall party, every performance, every new dancer trying to make their mark. Because Bogle didn't just dance, he redefined what dancehall could be. He made it bigger, louder, braver. Because of Bogle, dancehall isn't just music anymore, it's a movement.
Okay, so Dad, I heard you mention something about Lord of Yards.
Yeah, Loy, I think they call it Loy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lords of Yards is basically like a movement associated with Bogle's different dances.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't as formalized as the Black Roses crew,
Yeah.
but it, continued Bogle's legacy.
Okay.
And not only in the way the dance was dressed, but also in the way they moved and represented themselves.
Yeah. But isn't Loy, Lord of Yards, isn't
Yeah.
that also like a dance?
Yeah, it's a dance. It's also
Okay.
a dance. Yeah.
So it's a dance and a dance group at the same time?
yeah,
Oh, interesting.
yeah.
No, that's cool. Now, for all the joy, energy, and creativity Bogle gave to the world, his life ended in a moment that still hurts to talk about. It was the early morning of January 20th, 2005. Just after a lively night at Weddy Wednesday, one of dancehall's most iconic weekly events, held by the legendary Stone Love Sound System on Burlington Avenue in Kingston, Jamaica. The vibe that night? Electric. Dancehall royalty showed up. Artists, dancers, crews, fans, everybody was there. And Bogle, he rolled in with his usual flair, lighting up the space just by walking through it. Beenie Man and his crew were also in the building, adding to the energy. Then came a moment that people still argue about. Bogle, ever the showman, pulled out something unexpected. A suitcase with 2 live chickens inside. One of them, dressed in beads, flapped its way toward Beenie Man's group. The crowd exploded with laughter. Classic Bogle. Bold, unpredictable, always stirring the pot. But not everyone found it funny. Some thought it was a light-hearted joke. Others saw it as a disrespect, something personal. That's the thing about Bogle. He moved on instinct. Whether it was a dance move or a wild surprise like this, you never knew what he would do next. Now, sometime after Beenie Man and his team left, Bogle and his crew decided to keep the night going. Next stop, Passa Passa, another legendary street dance. They jumped into his Ford F-150 and headed off. But before they could reach, they realized they needed gas. Around 2:30 a.m., they pulled into the Esso gas station on Constant Spring Road. Just a regular stop. In the truck were 5 people, including a 16-year-old boy. No, a 16-year-old boy out at 2:30 a.m. I mean, under Jamaican laws, a 16-year-old is still a child. I don't know what a 16-year-old was doing out, but he was among the 5 men that were in Bogle's Ford F-150. Right, so they stopped at the gas station. Then out of nowhere, Two men on a Honda F4 motorbike pulled up. No warning, just bullets. All 5 in the truck were hit. Emergency services rushed them to Kingston Public Hospital. Bogle, Gerald Levy, was pronounced dead on arrival. He was just 40 years old. 3 of the others were listed in critical condition. One was treated and released. Sadly, one of the critically injured, Tony Matterhorn Reed. No, this is not the popular DJ called Tony Matterhorn. Actually, this person's name was Tony Reed and they called him Matterhorn, right? He later died from his wounds. And just like that, one of dancehall's brightest lights was gone. Not just a dancer, not just an entertainer, but a cultural icon, a creative soul who helped shape a generation and inspired countless more. The music played on that night, but something had changed forever.
Now, based on my research, right, it was said that Bogle was a man who had a heart of gold. Like, you know them people there who would have gave them last dollar, even if they need it?
Yes.
Bogle was that kind of person.
Yeah.
And he not only looked out for people with money, but with genuine kindness and care. And he did the same with his mother, Mama May. You know, he cooked for her. He would buy her little things she wanted or, needed. And I think that's why this case shocked Jamaica the way it did, because Bogle was someone who gave so much of himself to others without, wanting something back in return.
Yeah, and I guess the shock factor came from the fact that he was just this well-known and beloved dancer.
Yeah.
He brought a lot of energy with him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like based on further research, right, I was reading through like the Jamaica Gleaner, right? There was a post made in 2012 where, there goes this corner, as you mentioned before, where the Black Roses crew used to, perform. It was said that after Bogle's tragic death, the vibe completely shifted.
Yeah.
Right? There are murals, right, paintings of Bogle on the walls.
Yeah.
And, they were once vibrant, full of pride. But when he died, they were faded and peeling. And I think the lack of maintenance of the murals just showed like the emotional state of the community.
Yeah, depression.
Yeah,
like
people weren't gathering like before,
Yeah.
People never want to go party because, a man just died.
Yeah.
A man who they loved.
Right. A man with a whole lot of influence.
Yeah.
Too. Now, right after the shooting, Kingston was gripped by shock. The streets buzzed. Radio lines lit up. Whispers turned to headlines. And just like that, Gerald Bogle Levy, a man who brought joy through dance, became the center of Jamaica's latest tragedy. With a loss this sudden, this heartbreaking, people naturally wanted answers. Who did this? And more importantly, why? In the days that followed, the question echoed everywhere. From street corners to barbershops to sound clashes and Sunday talk shows, everybody had a theory. Everybody was trying to make sense of the senseless. Why would someone target a man who was all about fun, movement, and expression? He wasn't known for violence. He wasn't wrapped up in crime. He danced. He joked. He entertained. But dancehall, for all its joy, isn't always lighthearted. Beneath the laughter and booming rhythms, rivalries can simmer. And some believe those tensions may have reached a boiling point. Just hours after the shooting, word spread that John Hype's house at 12 Dillon Road had been firebombed. Now, who was John Hype? Well, he was another well-known dancer, one of Bogle's rivals. People didn't wait for facts. The streets called it revenge. Was John Hype connected to the gas station attack, or was the firebombing a grief-driven reaction? rage without clear direction. Then, of course, there was the chicken incident earlier that night at Weddy. 2 live chickens, one beaded and fluttering toward Beenie Man's crew. Some thought it was hilarious. Pure Bogle mischief, right? But others said it was personal, too personal. Eyewitnesses said that Beenie Man looked visibly irritated. Now, here's a good question. Could a prank, a moment meant for laughs, have led to something deadly? Now, let's be clear. There were no reports of any real confrontation between Bogle and Beenie Man that night. The only tension mentioned involved Beenie Man's brother, Brian, and an artist named Kid Corrupt. So was the scuffle related or just noise on the sidelines of a much deeper issue? Fingers pointed in every direction at rival dancers, at sound system selectors, even at powerful players in the dancehall world who knowingly or not may have steered rivalries over time. Now, of course, things got even more complicated when Beenie Man stepped forward publicly and basically denied any involvement in this incident. He even offered a $1 million reward for information leading to answers. Later in interviews, Beenie Man called Bogle a friend, said despite their differences, he would never wish harm on him or anyone else. But by then the damage was done, and for many people the questions refused to go away. If it wasn't Beenie Man, if it wasn't John Hype, then who? And more hauntingly, why? Now here is the first theory. To understand why people started pointing fingers at Beenie Man and John Hype after Bogle's murder, you have to go back, way before that night at Weddy. Back to where the cracks first began. You see, John Hype wasn't always Bogle's rival. He actually started out as part of the Black Roses crew, Bogle's own crew. But somehow along the way, things changed. John Hype split from the fold and joined forces with Beenie Man, one of the biggest names in dancehall at the time. Now, in any other space, that might have just been a career move. But in Kingston's dancehall scene, that kind of shift meant choosing sides. And this one sparked a real divide. Around that same time, Bogle had left Jamaica for a while. This was after the murder of Willie Haggart, his very close friend and the leader of Black Roses. You see, while Bogle was gone, John Hype stepped into the spotlight. He rose fast, and with Beenie Man behind him, his name started ringing louder than ever. Rumors say Bogle didn't like what he saw when he came back. I mean, it's like Bogle was looking at him and saying, "That's my former protege, now taking center stage." I mean, things started heating up, big time. See, Bogle and John Hype weren't just battling with moves anymore. No, there were diss tracks, like they actually started DJing, right? Bogle dropped his first tune, All Them There, where All Them There did there, throwing shades at John Hype's credential. No, John Hype fired back with Bust the Lock, calling himself the new king of dancehall. And the tension, it followed them into every party, every dance, every stage. One of the biggest flashpoints, that infamous night at Weddy with the chickens, we don't have to go back over it again. Some people just didn't find it funny, and that is one of the main reasons. It hit a nerve. I mean, it basically poured fuel on a fire that was already burning hot. That's essentially what it was. So when Bogle was murdered hours later, people didn't see a tragedy. They saw a pattern. An ongoing war now turned deadly. And then came the retaliation. John Hype's family home at Dillon Road firebombed. No arrest, no solid leads, but everyone on the street knew what it felt like. Payback. Still, for all the drama, for all the whispers, no evidence ever came forward to link Beenie Man, John Hype, or their teams to the murder. Not a charge, not a trial, just rumors, and wounds that never quite heal. This theory sticks because the rivalry was real and very public. It showed just how personal things can get in dancehall, how pride, legacy, and position can drive good men to dangerous places. But at the heart of it all, there's still that same haunting question. Did it go too far?
Now, the tension got so bad between Beenie Man and Bogle that one night at the Asylum nightclub, right? Shortly before Bogle was murdered, you know, Beenie Man had brought John Hype onto stage and, hyped John Hype up while calling Bogle old news.
Yeah.
No, in my eyes, that's a
That
bit
must have
disrespectful.
hurt. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's hurt.
that's a
Bogle
bit
Old News, yeah.
disrespectful.
A legend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this really hurt Bogle. And as a man who was always, laughing, always giving jokes,
Yeah.
he was not. He was very quiet. He went backstage and actually, cried
Yeah.
one side. And I think
And it just shows you that this man wasn't even, like, he wasn't a violent man. He just cared about dancing. Like,
Exactly.
can you imagine a big man crying because
I
them
feel
blew him off stage?
I feel like a lot of dancehall creators
Yeah.
nowadays, like, they're very easy to, fight each other over the smallest things.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not an avid dancehall listener, but I do know, a
Yeah,
little.
you're from Jamaica. Come on, it's your culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, I agree. That situation, I think, was, had gotten really out of hand
yeah.
with Bogle, Beenie Man, and John Hype, right? So here it is. Another theory, though, suggests that Bogle's murder wasn't just about dancehall rivalries. It might trace back to his close association with Willie Haggart Moore, the influential leader of the Black Roses crew and Bogle's confidant. You see, Willie Haggart was more than a community figure. He wielded significant influence and had connections that extended into complex and, some say perilous territories. In April 2001, Haggart was gunned down at the crew's Lincoln Road base, a murder that sent shockwaves through Kingston and left many questions unanswered. See, Bogle, standing as Haggart's right-hand man, right, was deeply affected by his loss. In the aftermath, he faced threats that were severe enough to compel him to leave Jamaica temporarily, a move that underscores the gravity of the dangers he perceived. The notion here is that Haggart's enemies, having eliminated their primary target, might have turned their attention to Bogle, viewing him as the next obstacle or as someone who knew too much. However, while this theory aligns with the potential spillover effect from Haggart's assassination, there has been no official confirmation linking Bogle's 2005 murder directly to the events of 2001. Of course, the 4-year gap leaves room for speculation about lingering vendettas, but no concrete evidence has surfaced to tie the two tragedies together. This leaves us with a haunting possibility that Bogle, through his close ties to Haggart, became ensnared in the same deadly power struggle that claimed his friend's life. Yet it remained another troubling theory, shrouded in rumor and the opaque shadows that often envelop Jamaica's dancehall scene.
Yeah, what I think a lot of people might not realize at first glance is that Bogle, before he even died,
Yeah.
like, his life was already under threat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think many people realize that.
I don't think it was a spur of the moment thing. It was
No.
definitely planned.
Right.
Um,
And that is why it was so easy for people to think that the incident that happened at Weddy led to his
Yeah.
murder when it was like more complex than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, after the death of his close friend and mentor, Willie Haggart, as you mentioned earlier, he, continued to be a target, right? He was kidnapped on multiple occasions and even shot at,
Yeah.
which caused him to flee to the US. I think you mentioned that.
Yeah, that is why he left to the US. And that is why John Hype, found that little space that he could just slip into.
The song that he released was John Hyper New York.
Oh, that was John Hype hitting back at Bogle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bust the Lock or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. But that is how John Hype started to, get the spotlight because Bogle had to leave Jamaica for a while.
Yeah.
As you said that, these people were after him. Like he was shot at multiple times. Was he kidnapped or they attempted to kidnap him?
They attempted to kidnap.
Yeah, they did. Well, obviously, because probably if they had kidnapped him, they would have killed him, before that night. Yeah, no, it's sad. So that makes a lot of sense, right? That most people, like some people, are lining his death now to the theory that because of Haggart's association, right, and he was Haggart's right-hand man, he might have known too much, right? However, there is another theory, guys. No, not everyone believes Bogle's death was tied to a rivalry or revenge. Some say it was just bad timing, a heartbreaking case of being in the wrong place at the worst possible time. You see, in the early 2000s, Kingston had its fair share of unrest. Street violence was a sad part of the reality. Gun crimes, robberies, and sudden attacks were happening far too often, especially in high traffic spots late at night. According to this theory, Bogle's murder wasn't the result of a feud or betrayal. It was just the streets, the randomness, the chaos. As a public figure, Bogle was instantly recognizable. That fame could have made him a target. Not for who he was to dancehall, but for what someone thought they could take or prove. But here's where this theory starts to wobble a bit. Witnesses from the night say the attack didn't feel random. They remember how the gunmen rode up fast, aimed with focus, and fired multiple shots into the truck before speeding away. No demands, no words, no robbery, just bullets. Precise, quick, intentional. That's not how street crime usually plays out. It looked more like a hit than a stick-up. So the question becomes, was this just Kingston's violence spilling into another night, or something more calculated? No one knows for sure, and in the absence of clear answers, this theory lingers in the background.
So personally, I believe that the eyewitness accounts, added a lot of complexity to this case because, some people at the night of the shooting would say that the shooters appeared to be calm, which would suggest, a targeted attack with, clear intent.
These people are like professional killers, right? They're calm and composed, and precise, accurate,
Well, some people weren't too sure because, it was early in the morning.
It was still
would have been dark.
kind of dark, yeah. I mean, although there was light at the gas station, obviously, but yeah.
So, and a lot of the descriptions were very inconsistent as well.
Yeah, and I can tell you, like, as a former police officer, eyewitness testimony is the most inaccurate kind of evidence that there is. Like, people will say that they see things and they didn't really see anything.
Yeah.
Or it's, I guess, especially when something like that happens, it's fast, it creates a little bit of fear and trauma. And so it can cause the brain to, you know,
Make up things that are not there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, there is another theory that doesn't come with headlines or street chatter, but it's just as possible. Some believe Bogle's death might have come from something personal, something quiet, a private dispute, an unpaid debt, a grudge that never made it to the public eye. You see, dancehall has always had its stage, but it also has its backstage. You're not seeing what's going on backstage most times, right? So, backstage is where deals are made, relationships are tested, and sometimes the real drama never makes it to the camera. I mean, with Bogle's level of fame, it's not hard to imagine he had connections and business on the side. Some of it known only to tight circle. And no one from that circle has ever spoken out. That's what makes this theory especially unsettling. In a space where pride and respect carry weight, even a small misunderstanding can spiral into something deadly. One slight, one disrespect, one word taken the wrong way, and things can change overnight. So, was it a private disagreement that turned tragic? Did someone close to Bogle harbor grudge the rest of us never saw? It's another shadow in the story already full of them. And then finally, the last theory here, guys, is that there's the bigger picture, a theory that steps back from individual rivalries and looks at the wider world of dancehall crews or dancehall groups. Because in Kingston street dance culture, crews don't just battle for moves, they battle for turf, for attention, for influence. Who runs the block? Who hosts the biggest event? Who calls the shots? Even with all the love and respect Bogle had, success has a way of attracting enemies, especially when you're at the top. Some say he may have found himself at the center of crew conflicts he didn't even see coming. His tension can build quickly behind the scenes, and sometimes it explodes. Still, despite all the speculation, no crew or group has ever been officially named or tied to Bogle's murder. No arrest, no confessions, just silence. Now, of course, after the shooting, Jamaican police moved quickly to open an investigation. They secured the scene at the Esso gas station on Constant Spring Road there in Kingston. They collected forensic evidence and spoke with survivors, members of Bogle's crew who had made it through the attack. They also made a public call for information, promising confidentiality to anyone willing to come forward. But for fans watching closely, something felt off. No major updates, no arrest, no named suspects, and over time, things went quiet. Whether the case hit a wall or whether the progress just wasn't shared publicly, no one really knows. Now, you remember Beenie Man's $1 million reward. Now, that certainly offered some kind of hope for breakthrough. But guess what? Nobody ever came forward to claim it. And in Jamaica, I mean, the truth is simple but sad. Fear runs deep. The threat of retaliation keeps many lips sealed. Even when people know something, silence often feels safer. Now, did the police have suspects but lacked the evidence? Did key witnesses hold back, afraid to speak out? Were deeper, more dangerous connections involved, ones too risky to expose? We just don't know. What we do know is this. No one has ever stood trial for the murder of Gerald Bogle Levy. The case remains officially unsolved. And that silence, it still echoes.
Now, we know that Bogle had a significant impact on dancehall to its core because in the immediate aftermath, a lot of promoters temporarily stopped, holding events,
Yeah.
right? Out of fear of their own safety.
Yeah.
Because if this was to happen to, someone who was, loved in the entertainment industry, it could also happen to them.
Yes.
And because of this, it really dug a hole in Jamaica's economy at the time because, dancehall was, a major income source for a lot of artists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a lot of people, that's how they make their money, from these street dances and so on. And if the government locks down those things, if law enforcement locks down those things, then of course you're taking food out of people's mouth. And then, I mean, to a certain extent, it attracted tourists, right? Because
Yeah.
there are some people who just love dancehall. They just love Jamaican culture, right? So I can imagine that a lot of people, had issues, they had financial issues and so on. No, even in the darkest of his final moments, Bogle's legacy still shines bright in Jamaican culture. Ask any dancer today, and they'll tell you, Father Bogle paved the way. From Kingston street corners to stages around the world, his influence lives on in every hip twist, shoulder pop, and bounce. Artists like Elephant Man and Voicemail still honor him through their music. And even global stars like Rihanna gave him a nod. She dropped a little Bogle in her Rude Boy video. The man was that influential. His funeral, held on February 6, 2005, said it all. Hundreds gathered at Kencott Seventh-day Adventist Church, some in bright dancehall fashion, others in solemn black, but all were there with love. Government officials, music legends, community leaders, they all showed up. And the energy, it was emotional, raw, and real. So real that the minister had to pause at times. Fans kept bursting into applause every time someone big walked in. At Dovecot Memorial Park, where Bogle was laid to rest, you could hear his own track. All them there, where all them there did there. Blasting car speakers. It wasn't just a funeral, it was a celebration. Loud, colorful, unapologetically dancehall. Just the way Bogle would have wanted it. So, what really happened that night? Was it a rivalry gone too far? A shadow from the past? A private grudge? Or just the wrong place at the wrong time? We may never know. The truth is, Jamaica's dancehall scene, like the country itself, is full of brilliance and complexity, but it also has an unwritten code. The kind that says, informer for dead. Snitches get stitches. I mean, no laughing matter. It's a mindset that silences weaknesses and keeps stories buried. And when justice depends on voices that won't speak, the truth often dies in silence. What we're left with is this: a legend lost too soon, a mystery still unsolved, and a culture forever changed by the absence of a man who could make the world move, just with a step and a smile. That brings us to the end of this special episode on Gerald Bogle Levy. From Trenchtown roots to dancehall greatness, his story is a powerful reminder of Jamaica's creative fire and the dangers that sometimes burn close to it. I hope this deep dive gave you a clearer view of who Bogle was, what he stood for, and the mystery that still surrounds his passing. He may be gone, but his movement lives on. And before I go, I just want to take this opportunity. I know it has been like 20 years since his passing, since they've killed him. I still think that it is possible to solve his murder.
Yeah.
Right? We have seen A lot of cases go 30 years before they're solved. So I want to take this opportunity. It's not too late. It's not too late to solve Bogle's murder. We can find out who it was. Somebody knows, right? And I think some of those people are still alive. So, of course, if you have any information, you can email me or you can reach out to, is it 311? The Crime Stop hotline in Jamaica. 311. Yes, if you don't know, oh my God. Yeah, I think it's 311. You can reach out to Crime Stop, right? 311. Guys, if this is the first time you are tuning into our channel, listening to us on Spotify, go ahead, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Also, follow us on Spotify, right? And I think you can also follow us on Facebook at The Noble Cop. You can follow us on Instagram at The Noble Cop, and so on and so forth. Thank you, guys, for taking the time to listen to this episode. I'm your host, signing off. Stay safe, value life, and remember, keep dancing. Any final words, Kavina?
Thank you for having me.
That's it?
Yeah.
All right. Later.